the big question everybody has is, when is it going to completely bottom out, and when are we going to moon, right? So when we look at XRP, it's very difficult to know exactly when it's going to moon, but we can look at certain structures. For example, the current structure we're in now, we've been bouncing on support for quite some time. Let me zoom in here. You can see kind of what happened, right? We had this, right, double bottom here, right? We went up in 5 waves, and then we started bouncing on support, and then what was interesting is we started going down in this spring phase right in here. So this could be a Wyckoff accumulation structure, with this being the spring, which means what? Which means a spring needs to break support in order to grab liquidity. So for example, all the retail traders are looking at this as strong support. So anytime it goes below that, there's a lot of stop losses that get triggered. There's a lot of liquidations, and basically there's a lot of liquidity that enters the market, and it allows smart money, the guys that have millions and millions of dollars, to accumulate large positions and get their orders filled, right? And in order to do that, you have to break certain major support lines, right? So this, in my opinion, was been going back for over a year. We have been bouncing off this support line for over a year, right? So 1 year, bounce, 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 bounce. So it is a very highly significant line, right? So when we're holding it here and we broke it to the downside, that is a major bearish signal, right? As retail would look at it. But what's really important to know is it really a bearish signal, or is it actually the bottom, or is it, a bullish signal? In my opinion, I think this is more bullish than it is bearish, because it is completing this 3-wave move. You have 1, 2, 3. You have a 3-wave shape, and it's coming down and grabbing the liquidity. So you can say, okay, well, maybe not, but is there any evidence to support that? And yes, there is. This is exactly what happened the last time, right? When we look at XRP, right? I mean, by the way, it's been going sideways for over 6 years, 6 or 7 years. It's been going sideways, sideways, sideways. It did not get to participate on the last bull cycle, right? So if you go back in time, right? Let me just put it side by side here. You can totally see massive similarities, right? You can see back over here, we had a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways. Same thing here. We have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways. So if you focus on the sideways, this reaccumulation structure, that's actually the most important part, right? Because that's where all of the accumulation is. That's where all the people are buying, right? So if you look at what happened back over here, same kind of thing. It started here somewhat in January, and then it lasted until about March. So it actually took a little longer than a year, I think. No, it was actually about a year. So January, February. Yeah, so that's even more confluence, guys. So basically, everybody that's holding XRP and crypto in general wants what? We want our investment to pay off. We want a massive bull cycle. We want a huge pump, right? So that our bags can be nice and heavy, right? So the question is, well, how do we get that pump? What comes right before the pump? And this is what comes right before the pump. And you can see it. It's the same thing that's happening now, which is really interesting, right? And by the way, back when it was doing this, everybody was giving up on XRP, selling it, saying it's going to zero, saying it's trash, saying it's this, saying it's that, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, people got complacent and they thought it wasn't going to go anywhere. But that's when it exploded and totally shocked everybody who, couldn't see it, right? So luckily we have last cycle to compare it to. So when you look at both cycles here, it's actually it's so identical it makes your head spin. It just makes you wonder why people are so bearish when you look at the chart, it's just clear as day to me. Now, if this thing starts breaking down lower and lower and lower, it's going to start looking a lot different. And then we can say, okay, it's something else. But until that time comes, I have to look at this and treat it as extremely bullish and optimistic for the future. It doesn't mean today or tomorrow or next week or even next month, but I think over time this thing is going to hash out a bottom in here, somewhere in here, right? It might take a little while, but then we get that big move to the upside, because this is a coiled spring in here, just like how this was a coiled spring. This was a huge sideways base that launched us into space. This is an even bigger sideways base. This is the biggest base in crypto history, right? So, you know, this is going to be a big deal when it finally does explode, because this is a major area here. I mean, if you look at this box, right, if I just draw a box just like that, right, and there we go. So you can see, right, you know, when this box breaks, it's going to be huge. So anyway, let me get back to over here, what I was showing you, right? So when we look at what happened over here, we had a bottom, first of all, right? And we got back up above the line, and we're holding the line, we're holding the line, we're holding the line, we're bouncing off the line, bouncing off the line, and then we come all the way up to the back to the top of the range. Nope, we're not finished yet. And then we got to come all the way back down to the bottom of the line. And it's important to count the waves, because you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have a 5-wave structure in here. I mean, you can argue it's 3 as well, but it's still, right? You can see what happened right here where that blue square is, and you can actually see it better on the Bitstamp chart. You can see right there, right? You can see right there, we came down and we grabbed that liquidity, right? We're going sideways. It looks like a beautiful consolidation range. So people are wondering, is it going to break to the upside? Is it going to break to the downside? So usually the first move is always the fake out move, right? So what it did is the market makers need to fill their position. So what they did is they brought the price down, right? After making people believe it was going to break out, then what did they do? They dropped that wick right down in here, and you can see specifically, you know, these candles right here, right? We had literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-day candles, right? So we spent you know, some time down below this line here, and that ended up being the low, right? This ended up being the low that kicked off the big bull cycle. So here it is back on the Binance chart. You can see similar, right? You have these wicks in here. It's wicking down, wicking down, wicking down, filling people's orders, getting everybody bearish at the same time. Everybody goes short, and then bam, it explodes to the upside. So now, right, you could take a mental screenshot of that, right? We have this, I can make it easier. We have this pump to the upside, come back down, and sort of looks like this sort of awkward looking M or W shape, right? So pay attention to that shape. Now look at this right here. Doesn't that look pretty similar, right? Where we have the same sort of awkward, maybe W or M shaped pattern, right? And so if we look at the structure, the same thing, right? Where it took 1 year, exactly the same time it took the last time, right? We had a bottom, we held this line as support, we bounced up, we held it again, we held it again, we bounced up, we held it again, we bounced up, and we couldn't break out. So what happened? We're going down, down, down. Doesn't it feel like crypto's been going down a long time? That's because if this is the spring here, right? And it was very hard to gauge this, because a lot of people were putting their fractals, you know, like for example over here, then they put it over here, right? Then they had it over here, right? But you just got to let it form and play out. But now we can see it clear as day here what just happened. So this right here, right, was finally the liquidity grab. You can see the candle broke right below, just like it did the last time. Now this is a pretty big candle though. We don't really want it to go any lower than that, right? We kind of want it to be done there, right? So I would say we definitely don't want to break below that 36, 37 cent line, right? We really want to stay above that. And worst case scenario, right, we really need to stay above 33, 34. So if those get broken, then we can look at it differently. But until then, we got to treat it as a liquidity grab, right? So is there any other confluence that can say that this is what it is? Well, yes, because we actually, right? So if I take this structure right here, the same structure that we're in, you can see this structure right here. If I take that fractal, right, and I basically overlay it, and then I take this structure right here, and then I'm going to match it up with the structure that we see now right over here. So I'm going to plug that right in there, and you can see it actually lines up very nicely, right? So you know, we'll see how this continues to progress, but right, you can see, you know, you kind of have that sort of three-wave shape in here where we come down, right? Same thing here, we come down. So what I'm looking for, let me just overlay this one more time. You know, and it's not perfect. You can see there was actually a, you know, kind of like a double bottom here. This one had a little bit more divergence, but nothing's ever going to be exact. So, but anyway you look at it, it still looks pretty good, right? So you can see, right, the candles are sort of wicking down in here. So we still got quite some time. I mean, this really didn't get out of here till sort of, you know, the end of July, beginning of August. So we played around down here for a while. So we'll see if that's the case here. But what I'm looking for is for a bottom to get hashed in here. So, you know, we drop down. We could come all the way back and have a double bottom in here, right? You know, retracing 50% of this wick here. So let me go to the weekly candle, because the weekly candle is going to end today. So this is a big deal here, right? Because, you know, if we start crashing back to the downside, then this right here was a complete breakdown, right? It was a breakdown. But if this is a liquidity grab, we want to see it quickly recover. We don't want to see it spend too much time down in here. Maybe a little bit, but not too much. You know, but again, we can still come all the way back and retest, you know, 38 cents or so. But all in all, what we want to see is a bottom to get hashed in here. So what that could look like is maybe we have some kind of, you know, Wyckoff structure where we actually take out the low and then we break out, right? Maybe some kind of ascending triangle, then we break out. Maybe some type of inverse head and shoulders, then we break out, right? There's a lot of different formations to be seen. Maybe some kind of triangle in here, right? We hit the low, then we break out. So there's a lot of, you know, different things, right? And all in all, what we have is a correction. So A, right? This is the B wave and this is the C wave. The question is C finished? If we have another low, you know, we could still have another low, right, on the micro structure. But all in all, this whole thing is a three-wave shape in here, right? And that three-wave shape is correcting this move here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have this, right, this up move, and then this down move. So we have a 1 and a 2, and we want this to bottom out so that we can get wave 3 in here, right? So then when we zoom out, what do we have? Well, it would appear like this would be 1, 2, right? And then we start going up for that third wave, and hopefully that third wave can get us back to the all-time high or somewhere in that area. Then we flag out for wave 4, playing between, you know, 150, 130 to all the way up to $3, somewhere in this range, and then get that fifth wave to the upside, right? And then what we have, guys, is a finished third wave. So this would be wave 1, wave 2, this would be wave 3, and then we would come back for wave 4 and then get wave 5, right? So you know, if this is wave 1 of 3, then we still need 3, right? And 4 and 5. So it'd be 1. Actually, let me take it all off here and just do it like this. So this would be wave 1, wave 2, right? And now we're in wave 3. So in 5 waves in wave 3, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That would be wave 3. And then we would get wave 4. And then we would get wave 5, like this. So it would become 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we would have a nice 5-wave shape back to the upside, right? But you can see how fast this went up. I mean, this went up in 5 waves. This was actually a 1, 2 in here, right? So we had a 1, 2. Actually, we had a 1, 2, 1, 2 in here, kind of, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, and then we exploded up, right, into wave 3, 4, 5. And you can see it didn't really take that long. It actually happened very, very, very fast, right? So much longer than I had drawn it out, right? So I mean, this thing could actually, if I just take a bars pattern of where we are now, right? I'm sure everybody's already done this before, but really not in the same spot. You can kind of see how fast it can go up. Now, I don't think it's going to go up like that. I don't think it's going to go up that fast. I mean, I think it'll go fast, but I don't think it's going to be that insanely impulsive. I think maybe, between at least $4 to $6 would be a reasonable conservative target, all the way up to, between $8 and $10 as well. So we'll see how that plays out. Actually, if I take it from here to here, that's even more conservative. So that would be roughly, right, we need to break above. In order for all this to work out, first of all, we need Bitcoin, right, to finish its 5-wave move, right? That's number one. We need Bitcoin to show up to the party. And what I mean is this needs to be an ABC right in here. So if this is A, B, and C, right, and then we can get a bigger pump to the upside. So we would have 1, 2, 3, and now we're in an ABC for wave 4, then we get wave 5. So if this thing bottoms out in here, and again, it still might not be finished, we still might need to go down, right? This is the weekly candle, and you can see this is the first weekly candle that's going to close below the bull market support band. So it's either going to create a cascading event that's even more selling, or it's going to be somewhat of a trending sideways, maybe consolidating and then pull back to the upside. But essentially, what altcoins need is for Bitcoin to stay above this zone in here, right? If we can stay above this zone, I mean, we haven't even really tested 5250K yet, let alone down here at the 43K area. So, this thing is an A, B, C. It might still need to come down a little bit more, right? And test these areas in here before breaking out. So whatever that may be, we need a 4th wave, right? And then again, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And then we would see XRP, the altcoins, go extremely positive momentum, right, up to the upside. But a lot of them will struggle at the retracement levels, because still the altcoins haven't even gotten through the retracement levels, let alone breaching the all-time high. So it's going to take some time for them to get there. So usually the altcoins will start running after Bitcoin's already done, right, somewhat. But then let's say Bitcoin tops out at 100K, and then it kind of goes into a distribution range where it kind of goes up, it kind of hits the high, right, and then it starts to play in this distribution range, and this oscillation to the upside, right, the retracement, all that's where you get the alt seasons, right? That's where you get a massive XRP explosion, and that's where people rotate out of their altcoins, right, into, or out of their Bitcoin into altcoins, right? So when we go back to XRP, right? One of the things I was talking about is we were talking about the retracement levels, right? How deep do we have to go so that we can confirm a bull run? And I would say between definitely $1.30. We have to break as soon as the weekly candle closes above $1.30. Then it's gonna really set the stage for some big moves, I think. But essentially, we need to get between $1.30 and $1.65, $1.70. So right there. So that's our line there. And let me actually extend that out. Right. So we gotta break above these highs in here. So getting through those retracement levels is the hardest thing. But once you get past it, then we're only a hop, skip, and a jump away from the all-time high. There's not much after all of this. There's not that much resistance above, $1.80, right? Or really $1.50, $1.50, $1.60. Above $1.60, there's not much resistance all the way up to the all-time high of $3 and almost 50 cents, $3.40 on certain exchanges, right? So breaking, once we break this line in here, right, or even up between $1.30, $1.60, there's really not a lot right there, right? So let me put another line right there. There we go. So but essentially, right, what I would look for then is a full, hopefully 4.236 extension at $7.50, right, from this swing low here. But if I extend that up to here, right, and then I go all the way down, right, and I get a big picture, then I think it's still going to be about that $1.60 area, but the upside targets are going to be a lot higher. So I would say between $5 and $6 for sure, between that $5 and $6 area. And then another big one would be between $8 and $9. And then, all the way up to $10 to $13, even possibly higher than that. I mean, if we look at this in log scale, right, I mean, there's targets going to $27 on certain moves, on certain retracement Fibonacci levels. So one of them here was $23, right? So that's a pretty big number there. Let's see if we can get that. Yeah, that's about it there for XRP. Just wanted to come out and give a kind of an update here. Another thing as well is that this could still be a triangle, right, where we have the same thing that happened here, right? We have an A, B, C, D, and then an E, and that blasts it off. Same thing here. We have an A, B, C. This could be D, and now we're still in E, right? So if that's the case, then we need 3 waves in wave E, in which we have, right? Because this was 3 waves, 1, 2, 3. But there was a lot of subwaves in between as well. So we have that 3-wave move in D, and then we also have a 3-wave move in E. So boom, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So that's a 1, 2, 3. That's what we need to finish up wave E. So we could be at, the bottom of the 9th, right? World Series, let's go. The bottom of the E wave right here. So if that's the case, and look where it's coming in at. It's coming in exactly where this fractal was, right here, right? And so, and all of that is coming from what? From this support line right here. You can see right there. Same thing as right there, right? And this is the range that it's in, right? And the range that it's in. So, and there's the liquidity grab there. and then here is the liquidity grab here. So only time will tell. This is not financial advice. This could be totally wrong, right? This is not sort of like, you know, a prediction, or this is exactly what I think is going to happen. This is an idea based off what happened the last time. So all I'm trying to do is find evidence to suggest that, you know, we're going to get some big move to the upside. Well, show me the proof. And I think I just did, right? I showed you exactly, you know, the structures in here, right? Because every wave has a purpose. Like this was the bull cycle, it's an expansion. This is a crash. This is people capitulating, taking profits. This is a retracement, basically a reaction to that crash. People who didn't get out, now they have another chance to get out also, right? Basically a dead cat bounce. And then you have a sell-off again, and this primary wave's job is to basically allow more people to get in or the bottom, right? And then we kind of go sideways in here, allowing people to go into reaccumulation, and this all sets up for a big explosion to the upside. And you can see that's exactly what is potentially happening now, right? You have this expansion phase, you have the crash, you have the retrace, you come back down into reaccumulation. Now you're sort of going sideways in here, right? And whatever happens in here is going to dictate the future of XRP's direction, right? So, yeah, that's what I got for you. You can also see like a trend line right here. And you can see right there we broke the trend line, and that's exactly what's happening over here as well, right? Everybody got freaked out, you know, we're kind of breaking the trend line, same kind of thing. So if I just put it exactly right there, you can kind of see, there we go. So we broke the trend line, and that could be a very, very bad thing. But then also you can see that's what happened here. Same thing, that's what happened here, right? So everybody's freaking out. Oh, it's going to go down, it's going to die. And maybe it will. Maybe it will, but maybe it won't either, right? I mean, last time it broke down, but then it exploded. So maybe it'll happen this time as well, right? Again, we have Brad Garlinghouse, $5 trillion prediction, right? He's still sticking with it. How's that going to come? Well, we have the Ethereum ETF, the Bitcoin ETF, regulations, potentially even an XRP ETF. But the big thing this summer is going to be the lawsuit, right? He said that, you know, Brad Garlinghouse believes that somehow it'll be resolved, hopefully this summer. Maybe it won't be, and it has to go to trial, but something hopefully will good come out of it this summer. There'll be some kind of resolution. They'll pay a fine. It'll be over with. They'll be clear as a whistle, right? They'll be the most vetted blockchain company in the world, right? Just like how Trump is the most vetted president in the world. They're looking at every nook and cranny to nail them to the wall, right? Same thing, you know, what the SEC, the corruption at the SEC is doing to Ripple. They're looking at every financial document, every email, everything they're trying to get dirt on them, and they just can't do it. So this is a vetting process, and I think, you know, if Ripple assumes some big major liquidity role for maybe the international banking system, right? They're going to want to make sure that Ripple has the accreditations to fulfill that role. And what better way than to put them through a stringent lawsuit where they can dissect everything Ripple has ever done. So maybe it's all a conspiracy theory, maybe not. We'll see what happens. Now, let's say worst case scenario, this doesn't play out and we do crash, then what would it be? Well, to me, it would be this is an ABC, this is an ABC, and this would be also an ABC. So we have 3 down, 3 up, right? And then we would have 3 back down. So it'd be some kind of WXY, where we would bottom out really at 17, between 15, 17 cents, and then go up to the moon, right? And then that whole thing would actually be reaccumulation, right? It would just extend the reaccumulation. So rise, crash, retrace, all of this is reaccumulation. Then we go sideways a bit, then go up, right? So basically a 3-wave move. Do I think that's going to happen? No, there's not enough evidence, but we'll see how that plays out anyways. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.